Hello, everyone. You are listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. I am Jordan Hall, and I am pumped to be joined by the Brooke Destra. We are live at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia. Brooke, training camp is getting closer and closer, and a popular topic throughout the season is always the lineup. Who is playing with who? Should they be playing there? Should they not be playing there? So we thought, why not look at the free agent additions and where they fit in the lineup, where we think they should be, who they should be playing with. So that is Ryan Poehling, Mark Stahl, and Garnet Hathaway. So, Brooke, I'll open it up with Garnet Hathaway. I think he was probably the biggest addition in the offseason, a two-year deal. Bottom six winger, a guy with experience. In your mind, what line should he be playing on, and who do you want to see be his line mates?
Yeah, I'm so back and forth with all of the free agent signings this year. Nothing detrimental by any means. I don't think they're all short-term contracts. You can't freak out. I know you see a lot of people stressed out with looking at these signings like, we're in a rebuild. Why are you bringing older veterans in? And I'm like, it's not a 4-year deal worth $5 million annually. You know, like it's this little like trial, bring people in. You still need veterans. You can have a very young team. You still need that kind of presence. So I think Hathaway, in a sense, you know, he's coming from Boston, which is, you know, they're coming off of the most historic season you've ever seen, and then the biggest flop in the playoffs you've ever seen.
Yeah. Little shot
at Boston. I'll take it when I can get it.
Yeah.
But I think that he's going to come in with a really strong sense of what it takes to win, especially in the regular season. I don't see him being a fourth liner. I see him kind of falling in third. I don't see him any higher. I think that for the most part, team and the organization is really going to push for those younger guys to get more time and get more acclimated, with more responsibility on the ice. But as that goes, I don't really see, I feel like depicting this lineup and the lines for this season is going to be very difficult because you got a bunch of little guys, prospects, the little guys, a little AI, my little dudes. You have all these younger prospects, and you're kind of going to keep flipping them around and seeing what happens until something clicks. So I see him as a third line, but I also see, you know, if a player really comes in and, you know, is fighting for his life and is earning that spot, like he can bump himself down. And I don't think that's anything he's going to take offense to, because he knew what he was getting into with the rebuild.
Yeah, I think the guy that he could really be competing with playing time wise and spot in the lineup could be Wade Allison. I think Wade Allison's probably the guy that could either be a third liner, but if he's not doing some of the things that John Tortorella likes, if he's maybe struggling with his health, he could bump down to the fourth line. And I think Tortorella is going to like Garnet Hathaway. I'm sure Tortorella had his voice in there about potentially adding him. He's very much a John Tortorella type of player. So I think Tortorella will have no problem bumping Hathaway up in the lineup if he wants to play him on the third line, give him some more minutes, especially if he's going that night. Brooke, in my mind, I actually would love him to see him on the fourth line. I think I want to see a player like Wade Allison play in your top nine. I want to see some younger players featured a little higher. And I remember John Tortorella last season during training camp and leading into the regular season, he mentioned the fourth line being an identity line. And I could really see some of their physical, forecheck-oriented vets being that identity line, that being Delorier, Hathaway, and not to jump the gun here, but Ryan Poehling, I think could be a fourth line center for them. I could see that being that identity fourth line. But don't get me wrong, I'm with you. I really think Tortorella might bump Poehling and Hathaway up and really make some of the younger players that he's not totally sold on yet earn that, you know, that top nine role. I don't think it's going to be given to Wade Allison. But Hathaway, I think, is an ideal fourth liner that would really complement Nicolas Delorier, have it kind of be that brutal to play against fourth line that's going to be in your face, stand up for other guys and kind of set the tone for some of your younger players when they come back on the ice for their next shift?
Yeah, so my biggest thing, and I don't know if I want to throw a red flag or a question mark, that they are labeling, a bunch of these like new signings. They're very Flyers type players.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what version are we looking at when you're saying Flyers type players? The bullies are long gone.
Yeah.
RIP.
Yeah. That's not coming back.
No, as much as, hold it near and dear to my heart. I was negative 30
Yeah,
when it was happening, but but it's like, it's a Flyers type player, and I get that. Big physicality, heart on their sleeve kind of athlete, and that I love. I just hope that that doesn't become like the full rebranding, because we don't need all like the big goons basically like pulling out all of the cliches out of the dictionary right now. Huffing and puffing down the ice, all about hitting, all about physicality, because the game is getting faster and shorter and more skill adjacent. Then I am going to plow you into the boards and you're going to lose 3 teeth.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I still very much love that aspect.
It's always
of
fun
hockey.
when you see it.
Oh yeah,
It's important.
I love it, but I'm always so like a little alert goes off, like, a Flyers type player. What does that mean in terms of identity for the franchise currently?
Yeah.
Like, what are we looking at?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, and I mean, Hathaway, like you said, he was a beast against the Flyers. He knows what to expect joining this team. So I'm curious to see how he adds it, the veteran presence, and like you said, Tortorella. I think he'll be great competition for Wade Allison.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, he's going to have to earn that spot, and that's why I enjoy the free agent signings, because it makes everybody in the system, prospects or current players on the roster, be like, I'm not safe.
Yeah.
I need to fight for my spot. And I love that.
Yeah, teams love competition, and a coach like John Tortorella definitely likes competition. It's good to have players earn things, not have those things given to them, for sure. Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone, including a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So Brooke, Ryan Poehling, a 24-year-old center, 1-year deal, a guy that's, I think, trying to establish himself as an everyday player. Definitely has a bottom 6 makeup, but he definitely fits in the mold of being younger and seeing what you have in that type of player. For me, I think he's great as a fourth-line center. I think he can really prove himself. And I do think Hathaway and Poehling are guys that can play more than 8-9 minutes. I think they can give you 11 to 12, maybe 13. And for John Tortorella, I think his system is predicated on running 4 lines deep. I know it's a cliche, but Tortorella, the way he wants his guys to play, that effort, all-out effort, forecheck, everyone, when they get on the ice, they're making an impact. I think you need guys that can play on the fourth line and give you nice double-digit minutes, not that 6-7 minutes and they're hardly on the ice late in the game. So I think that will be important for the fourth line. Poehling, I think, can give that to him. And with Noah Cates, Morgan Frost, and if Sean Couturier is healthy, and all signs point to that he is, I think that's your top 9 centers. Yeah. So for me, Poehling looks like a nice little fourth line center that can climb in the lineup, maybe play the wing too if the Flyers need. That's where I have him. What do you think?
Yeah, so very similar. I do see him as, fourth liner. I am very curious to see how he makes the adjustment to Philly, because, I think players can either thrive or kind of crumble under new environments. And I feel like Poehling has an opportunity to really do something special. And I liked what he had to say once he did sign, is that he was like, I know I want to be a part of something special. And he thinks that the Flyers are it. He thinks that they're going to have this opportunity to kind of build up. And again, you see a lot of mixed reviews, like, why are you bringing in this 24-year-old when, you have the prospect pools and, you need to let the younger guys play. But it takes, you take from here, you take from here, you take from there to rebuild. There's not just one structured way. You need more than just your prospects in the system. And whether he is a launching pad for some of the other guys to, step up their game. I'm like, they're like, oh, they signed Paling. Like, what does that mean for me?
Yeah.
They step their game up, or Paling really finds his presence on the ice and solidifies himself as that fourth line center and somebody who can be relied upon. I mean, I know, like, I'm not getting ahead of myself, but you look down the road at the late games of the season and the playoffs. It's the bottom six forwards that kind of make or break your chances, essentially, because you always feel like the top two lines balance each other out across the board, and then it's those bottom sixers that make you figure out, like, are you worth being a championship team? Are you capable of being a playoff team? So, possibilities are endless. Again, we're bringing in a guy from Pittsburgh, so I'm like, all right, like somebody who knows the Flyers well enough.
Yeah.
Played against them. I'm curious to see how he adjusts to under Tortorella and company. So,
and I think he came here a lot because of the opportunity. I think he sees a rebuild. He sees a lineup that's kind of in flux and nothing is set in stone. And so he's going to push for more than just fourth line minutes. I think he's going to look to get more. And I think it's a nice spot for the Flyers and for Paling because he fits that age range. He's only on a 1-year deal. So he's definitely in a prove it mode, and the Flyers can wait and see if he looks like he could be a player and a guy that might be worth keeping around. You can re-sign him. If he doesn't really click here and doesn't really fit what they're doing, you can let him walk, or you can even flip him at the trade deadline. Teams might be interested in him, especially if he's getting some minutes here and he's producing. So I think there's some flexibility there with the Flyers. And Brooke, you're right. A lot of the contending teams, eventually, you got to round out your lineup and have, identity kind of in the bottom six, or your bottom six. So definitely, I think that's going to be important. And again, we know John Tortorella likes those types of players and understands the value of depth in his forward groups. And Paling, I think, is going to push that competition.
Yeah, and if we're significantly stressing the fourth line being the identity line. Mm-hmm. They're not going to throw to the wayside then. They're really going to construct from top to bottom what is going to work and be most beneficial. So I'm excited about that. I feel like, people are like, really? We're getting excited about who's going to play on the fourth line. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's where the Flyers are.
Yes.
It's a rebuild, and I mean, I think it would have been a problem if they went out and they spent and they got like a big name forward, because that doesn't fit their rebuild mindset.
There's little contracts, little trials in a rebuild. That is fine.
Right.
There's nothing substantial, nothing that's going to kill the cap, nothing with the restricted free agents in the upcoming years that would affect signings. It's fine.
Yeah. Yes.
Deep breaths.
Yeah. If any of these deals went into the 3-year range, if any of them had trade protection, I would have been like, why?
Yeah.
What's the point of that? None of them do. And the Flyers do need depth. I mean, you got to put guys on the ice. You're going to have injuries. And you do want to push your younger players. And I think they've set themselves up decently with Hathaway and Paling to give themselves depth, some reassurance, and we'll see where it goes in terms of the competition come training camp in the regular season. Brooke, I think maybe the most debated one is Mark Stahl.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the one that maybe made Flyers fans,
our friends, our pals.
Yes, we like fans. And I think that probably made them scratch their heads the most. I don't think people were expecting a guy of his caliber, a guy that just went to the Stanley Cup, a guy that's played over 1,000 games, a guy that's 36 to be brought in.
That one.
Mark Stahl.
What you last said.
Yes, 36 years old, 1-year deal. Definitely think they want him to be a mentor of sorts. Provide some support for the younger players in this rebuild. But where does he fit? Where does he play? I know you didn't exactly agree with the signing. What kind of bothered you a little bit maybe about bringing in Mark Stahl?
Now, I'm going to preface with, I don't think anything Danny Briere has done this offseason is bad.
Yeah.
I think for his first offseason as general manager, he's killing it. Loved what he was capable of doing with the draft. In terms of these free agent signings, like nothing was like the ship is sinking, wave the white flag, like what is happening situation. I did scratch my head a little bit with with the Mark Stahl signing. Not for lack of connections. He played under Tortorella for 5 years. I just it's very back and forth. Like he is in terms of athlete, he is on the older side of being a veteran player. And that's not even the part that really bothered me. It was more so the fact that, you just kind of unload players that had some issues off the ice with, some controversies with like Ivan Provorov and Tony DeAngelo. And then you bring in Mark Stahl, who kind of had the same things that Provorov was dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I get it. I respect it, your own opinions and everything. But it's just when you're in a rebuild and trying to build like this healthy locker room experience from the ground up, and you have all these younger guys and you're looking toward like older veterans, like if he's being brought in to be a mentor, will you mentor correctly?
Yeah, sure.
Will you raise these boys the way I need you to?
Exactly.
So it's more so lots of question marks around him. It's not the worst thing they could have done. It's not the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah, what Brooke was alluding to was Mark Stahl did not wear the Florida Panthers Pride Night warm-up jersey, and that became a very polarizing topic throughout the league. As we know, Ivan Provorov decided not to wear the jersey when he was with the Flyers last season. He cited his Russian Orthodox religion. Mark Stahl cited his Christian religion for why he did not wear it. Some other players throughout the league started doing it. So, Brooke, I see what you were saying. I'm sure that may bother some fans.
I just want, like, as simply put as I can like make it, I want positive energy. I don't want any kind of like tizzies or any kind of drama pertaining to anything else. Like when you're in a rebuild and it's so building from the ground up and it's lots of raw, like trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, you don't need anything to kind of throw a curveball at you and be like, okay, now we need to take the focus off of what we are doing, which is building a team on the ice, and have to fix something that's happening off it. It just kind of, I don't want us everybody shifting focus, I guess you can say. And I just want everybody to be loved and happy.
Yes.
I'll just put a little stamp at the end of that one.
No, that's fair. And when you're bringing in guys, a big aspect of it is making sure they're a right fit for the locker room and they're going to be a good mentor and do the right things on and off the ice. Mark Stahl, a veteran, a guy who's played a lot of games, did have that moment last season where he decided not to wear the Pride Night themed warm-up jersey. I don't think the Flyers were probably too worried about that.
No.
Obviously, there's not going to be any more themed warm-up jerseys. The NHL came to that decision. I think this offseason, I believe I saw in reports. So, but regardless, it is something worth chatting about. And I think there was probably a portion of fans out there that when they saw the signing, they remember what Mark Stahl did during last season. And perhaps that bothered them a little bit. I think it's very fair.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even just like off ice compared to on ice, I don't think in terms of signing him for his age, his experience, like, I just think that was the biggest moment this offseason.
Yeah.
Aside from the veteran presence, it's like, okay, what else can you bring to the team?
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I love being proved wrong.
Yeah.
I love it. I embrace it.
Yeah. My biggest problem would be if Mark Stahl's playing top pair minutes. If he's getting more minutes than Cam York, or if he's playing more, if he's playing in more situations than some of your younger prospects, because the Flyers have come out and they said they want to get younger in the back end. John Tortorella said it at the end of the season in April that he thinks more youth is needed on the back end. And Danny Briere has come out and said the Flyers don't want to block their kids. So I think it's important to balance the not blocking, but also supporting them. But I think the Flyers need to stay true to that mission of not blocking the kids. So to me, ideally, Mark Stahl is like a second pair guy or a third pair guy. I'd be fine if he was a second pair guy and he was maybe complimenting a young player
Sure.
on that pair, or maybe he's playing with a vet and just kind of giving you a solid, durable pair. So ideally, in my mind, Brooke, I would say maybe have him play. I don't want to see him play with Cam York. I think Cam York should be on the top pair.
Agreed.
And he's a lefty shot like Mark Stahl. I want to see York play his left side. Like, I think Ivan Provorov is no longer here. He was your left shot top pair D. I feel like a part of the reason to move on from Provorov was to open up a spot for a kid. Cam York looks like your future. Play him top pair left side. I'm sure there's going to be times where he bumps down maybe to the second pair, but I would love to see him in that top pair role. Give him the minutes, see how he handles it, put him in a good spot on his side that he should be playing. So maybe for me, Brooke, I would maybe like to see Mark Stahl maybe play with Travis Sanheim. I could see that maybe being a second pair. Maybe have Rasmus Ristolainen be your righty shot top pair. Get the righty lefty.
That would be an interesting dynamic
aligned
with York and Ristolainen.
Yeah, and it gives you a little balance. You're not too top heavy with York and Sanheim, or who are two of your better puck moving type of defensemen. Yeah. But you can make the argument, and I'm sure you might, Brooke, that Sanheim should be playing top pair given the money he's making.
Given the money that he's making, if he's anywhere below the second line, I might flip my laptop.
Yeah.
But
So how do you say it? Yeah, where do you think Stahl fits best?
I mean, ideally, I could see him in bottom pair minutes, but
sure.
I mean, in my heart, that's what I would want him, because I don't want him blocking the younger guys, but I don't see them bringing in this player that they want to be like some sort of a mentor playing bottom pair minutes. I think he's going to find a nice little spot, second line. I did see with Sanheim as well. I think maybe that's what Sanheim needs, is a little bit of elderly help.
Yeah.
Not calling him like, you know what I mean.
Yes, no.
It's, I don't know. Mark Stahl really, this was a curveball for me. And it's going to be scratching my brain until we hit training camp and we start seeing them, work who's going to feed off best with one another. As long as they are giving Cam York those minutes, I will sleep okay at night.
Yes, indeed. I think many people will too, as long as they see him in the role he should be, especially if he's playing well and he's looking like he deserves it. Mark Stahl and Travis Sanheim are both lefty shots, so you had to figure something out there. Someone's going to have to play on their offside, but that's not the biggest thing in the world.
No.
We've seen it happen. It's going to have to happen. And maybe Stahl being more of a stay-at-home veteran type, he could allow Sanheim to push the envelope, provide that offensive game, knowing you have Stahl, who last year, was a very consistent, durable guy. He played all 82 games, played in the Panthers Stanley Cup run to the final, and he played around 20 minutes. He's, he can play some minutes and give you some consistency on the back end, whereas Sanheim, I think, needs to start showing that offensive game again, where he's pushing the envelope, getting up in the play. Having a guy like Stahl might complement that. So I could see that maybe being a scenario, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like so much relies on what we are going to get out of Travis Sanheim this season. Yeah. And I don't know if it was the vibes were off. Just in the sense, adjusting to this new contract, you hear that kind of money, you're like, expectations are at an all-time high, which is a make or break situation. You're either going to thrive or you're going to crack under the pressure. And I think that that's really what we saw with Sanheim, this past season. So if he comes out now being like, okay, maybe I am next to this solidified, stay-at-home player like Stahl, I'm able to get back to my roots, what I'm good at, what I thrive at, and make everybody happy. So the defensive pairings are going to be an interesting thing to keep tabs on, really all throughout the season. You don't really know, because last year, would we be considering Ristolainen as a top pair defenseman? No. But the dynamic could be really interesting against alongside Cam York.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows?
And the Flyers' top pair from the season opener last year is gone. Ivan Provorov, and Tony DeAngelo. So I think the Flyers have really opened up, I think, opportunity on their back end, and they're going to ask for people to show them, like, hey, you might not, in a perfect world, you might not be a top pair guy, but we're going to give you the opportunity to play some top pair minutes. Let's see what you have. And yeah, perhaps a guy like Ristolainen can kind of re-solidify himself as potentially a top pair guy, at least with the Flyers. Same with Sanheim.
Yeah.
I think people believe there's some top pair upside, especially with his offensive ability. Let's see it. And Cam York especially, I think the opportunity is there for him to
I think he's going to have a crazy season.
Yeah.
I do. I just think
first full crack at a full season,
yep.
right?
Give him the ability to impress you, and he will.
Yeah.
Like, give him that trust, give him that responsibility, and I think he's going to go off.
Yeah.
I really do.
And I think a guy that people are going to look to bounce back is Travis Sanheim. And a funny trend I noticed is that he has seemed to kind of be like an every other year player. If you look back at his years, in 2018-19, he was very good, and he was the team's, I think, most improved player. Then all right, that might have been in 2019-20. I got to look back, but 2019-20, 2018-19. Then in the shortened year, he really struggled alongside Philip Myers. Then last season, best defenseman on the team. 2021-22, best defenseman on the team, most improved player. And then last year, took a step back. So it's weird, but the trends have said he's been like an every other year player. Maybe this year this will be his up year where he turns it on. I think there's going to be high expectations for him. But a ton of, I think, potential and instability on the back end. A lot of moving parts, Brooke, a lot of competition that will be, I think, following.
Well, that's going to be really exciting, is competition and where basically all the cards are going to fall. Which gets me excited for training camp. Yes, it's a rebuild year. Yes, there are no expectations, but I'm really excited to see all these young guys, really start to fight for their spots and fight for their chance to be there. So that's why, like I said, nice little bookend here.
Yes.
That's why I'm happy with the competition aspect of bringing in free agents. So we'll see what happens.
Indeed. Competition always makes things interesting, and I think the Flyers should have it. That's what I think part of maybe the beauty or the intrigue with a rebuild team is competition. It's figuring out what guys should be here, maybe what guys don't fit the Flyers plan anymore. And we'll have it all covered right here on the Flyers Talk podcast.
We will.
Brooke will continue to look at lines and stuff as this offseason sort of drags on. I think it's maybe in the drag on phase where it's getting a little slower, which is not a terrible thing. I think everyone will take the break from the crazy stuff or the busy time of the offseason, but we'll have plenty more to look at as this offseason moves on and as we get closer to September, which means training camp.
Yes.
But Brooke, thank you so much. As always, great seeing you, great chatting with you. Really appreciate your time. A big thank you to Ben Berry, our podcast producer and guru. And of course, Flyers fans, as always, thank you so much for listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, please rate and listen. And we can't wait to talk to you next time.